In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, we've got a whole lot of things that we want to fix, modify,
and improve
on the Lotus. Welcome to another episode of Mighty Car Mods. By now, you may have seen a couple of videos on my mad Lotus Exige S240. We've since found out, because you guys have been emailing us and telling us everything there is to know about the car, that this is only one of 3 black Lotuses that is this special edition. There's a little badge in the door. This is number 4 of 6. 4, 5 and 6 are black. We found 4, we found 6. We don't know where 5 is, but more on that later. Martin, is it winning you over yet, this mad MR2?
I see what you did there. No, I've been won over from the beginning. This is like the hammer of the car world. Not a Swiss Army knife, not a multi-tool. It does one thing exceptionally well. It goes fast. Like, it's just made to go fast, and you can't not be impressed by that. If you like cars, you generally do like going fast. Unless you're one of those like VIP people.
Yes.
That goes slow in a thing. Which I can't really understand, but if you like that, then that's
comfortable.
That's not this.
The fact that this is legal for the road is actually amazing, because when you drive it, it feels like you are in a track car, which is what it is. Now, last episode, we did fix the fusing issue. Martin found that well done, just blowing fuses constantly, which was some wiring that was done. The previous owner got in touch with me and said that was a professional install, by the way, on there. So that wasn't like a DIY.
It does happen.
But that's been fixed. And we also upgraded the dash because that didn't work with Lotus genuine parts. And I've now changed the screen on that. It's got this Formula 1 style thing. It's just off its chops.
Yep.
But there is a bunch of stuff that still needs to be done. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So the number 1 priority I have first is actually getting rid of the exhaust. It's really, really loud, but not in a good way. Now, a lot of the time on the internet, people go, loud is better. It just sounds terrible, and it's turning the wrong kind of heads. I also want to try and update the intake. So whether that's a pod filter or an intake, because I want to hear a little bit more supercharger whine. So that's going to get done. We've got to inspect the engine bolts. We've got to check the battery. Martin, what have you got going on over there, mate?
You need a new fire extinguisher, but it's already got a bracket, which is awesome. It's already been bolted in. A lot of times when you go to racetracks, you have to have one, and it has to be accessible from your driving position.
Is it expired?
Yeah, but only just.
Okay.
Only by like a couple of months, but they're just so cheap and accessible, you just get a new one.
All right, so I've got to change that as
well. Your exhaust is aftermarket?
It's aftermarket, but it's just, it's like,
noisy.
because when I bought the car, I got a bag of spares with it. It turns out, you know, I was saying before, there's 3 orange ones of these and 3 black ones. So there's 6 S240s in the country. The black ones actually have an orange lip and an orange wing. So it's a black car, and so those bits came with it. The factory exhaust came with it as well.
I see.
But then the one that was on it was just so loud.
Yeah.
It's got to go. It's too much. So I've actually been invited down to Lotus in Sydney today.
Man.
So I'm going to be going down there, and they've got a bunch of parts that they've designed, which hopefully I can use, but I can also use their hoist, and also hang out with Richie, because he's just a legend.
What a boss.
Learn more about the car.
Did he tell you that he used to work on Formula 1 cars and stuff? That was his thing, man. He used to travel the world with race teams. Like, you know, those mechanics you see like running out, changing tyres and wheels. He's done like all the crazy European style racing.
He's a boss, man.
Total boss.
He's awesome. A boss.
So much.
So I'm heading down to Lotus. That's what I'm doing. Martin, are you going to partake? You joining?
I have a car to collect.
Oh,
we'll talk about that later.
A new car that we'll talk about after.
Don't worry about it.
All right, so I think that's pretty much everything, but this afternoon you're going to help me with some other 100%. Stuff. Insurance is also something that a lot of you have been asking me about. Because this is a totally road legal car, I could get insurance through Shannons, which is a sponsor of our show. So they do CTP, and they also do comprehensive insurance, and they've also got a roadside assistance, and a version of that roadside assistance can even pick you up after a track day if something happens. So when my BRZ recently had to leave on a tow truck, that is something that they would cover as well. The car's not actually going to be covered on a racetrack, because I don't think people actually do that.
No insurance companies going to do that. Oh look, a GT3 just like, no, that's not going to happen.
But what Shannons can do is if something happens on the track and you've got their roadside assistance, then they can come and pick the car up for you and take. But they also do stuff like if your key doesn't work, if you've locked it in the car, if you run out of fuel, if you've got a flat battery. And like with this car, for example, like the key just doesn't work. Like a light goes on, but it just doesn't work. So that's something that I've got to fix today. because these cars are occasional use, they also have problems with the battery, which is probably why the previous owner put an isolator in there. So the battery's getting changed as well. And hopefully I'll get the key working, because I'd love to be able to lock the car. That would be excellent.
Just a tidy up, man.
Just a general tidy up, and got to check those engine mounts. So I'm going to go down to Lotus. Martin's going to go pick up his car, and then I will meet you later on and we'll finish off the other stuff here.
My car is so different to this.
It looks like word must have made its way back to England that I've bought this car, because I just got an email from the Lotus Factory giving me specific information about the build of my car from their archives. It was built in August 2007, and this special edition has the Touring Plus Pack, Super Sports Pack, 240R forged wheels, LSD, custom paint, extended roof scoop, uprated clutch, uprated injectors, and a performance map. I just can't get over how good this car looks. It is freaking epic. I've been invited down to Lotus in Sydney today to work on my car. Now, I'm used to buying Nissans that smell like bong smoke off the internet, so this really is a different world for me, and strange to be in a proper workshop that does race cars, but I'm always grateful to be able to spend time with people that know more than me. Today I'm going to be installing a new aftermarket exhaust system, an HKS performance filter, and an intake that was designed in-house here in Sydney. The first step is to jack up the car and remove the rear wheel. Most of the work we'll be doing today is through the wheel arch. With access to the Toyota factory airbox, I can check out the filter, and it turns out it was absolutely filthy. While the car's up in the air, I'm going to remove the rear under tray so we've got access to the exhaust later on. Now, someone's modified it with these quick release clips that don't release at all. After breaking one of them, we've removed them with pliers, and I'm going to replace them with good old reliable bolts. I'll be changing the exhaust shortly, but for now it is back to the intake system because I want that epic supercharger whine. With the factory airbox gone, we've now got a perfect path from this side scoop intake for our new performance pod filter. The new intake system is all assembled and now ready to be installed back in the car. Literally in the back of the car. This bracket holds the aftermarket intake in place, and once that's attached, our system is all done. And look at this epic trajectory of fresh, cold air. Next up, it's time to replace the exhaust. Simply get a hammer and a Lotus mechanic and then hit it and wiggle it until it falls off. The car already has a high flow cat, so I'll be adding to that this lightweight muffler that's designed right here in this room. It weighs way less than the factory system, gives improved sound and flow, and is a straight OEM replacement. And just like that, it's done, and it looks so much better. All right, so the exhaust is on now. The new intake is in there. It looks like the previous owner has actually put larger side scoops on here, which is good because we get a little bit more air. But now we just need to check for leaks and stuff like that. So, Richie, start her up, mate.
All right, mate.
Start her up. Let's have a listen. While I'm here, we're going to look at first gear, which has been a little crunchy, which could potentially point to a worn synchro mesh, but it just needed an adjustment and now is all sorted. Richie has also found this rear engine mount lower bolt hanging out. It may have been stripped, but luckily it was just loose, so now that is sorted too. And with all that done, I'm finished at the Lotus workshop, and now I can head back to continue the fixes at the MCM shed. And then I'm going to take you for a drive with the new exhaust and intake.
It's so cool that there's a Japanese HKS filter on a Lotus with a Corolla engine.
I know, it's such a weird combination of like JDME performance English supercar, sports car, exotic thing. It's just wacky. And once you actually get one layer deep, like when I was pulling this stuff out,
Yep.
it says Toyota on it. It says Toyota, Toyota, Toyota. Except here, they tried to trick us with this plate, but we know what's really going on.
Corolla engine on paper doesn't sound very exciting, but then you drive this thing
Yes.
and it's off its head.
And the engine is the same. They don't rebuild them or do anything like that. It's just, which means if you have a Toyota that's got this engine in it,
Yeah.
you could supercharge it.
Yeah, except
just
you got the weight penalty though, don't you? Speaking of weight penalty, batteries. Because a lot of cars like this end up as weekenders, track cars, race cars, stuff like that, often they don't get started enough, and that's pretty punishing environment for a battery. If you've got a daily car, chances are your battery's lasted 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Often these will not last nearly as long because they're not being charged regularly and they're not being cycled, and they end up just like basically ruining themselves. So we're going to remove this one and put in a new one, but we're also going to put on a trickle charger adapter, which is an easy thing you can make with a couple of ring terminals, a fuse, and just a little sort of two-way connector. Then if you get yourself a trickle charger, basically you can buy them from any shop, and then you can make your own adapters and put them onto your charger, so you can use it for any battery, and then you can also just plug your car in, hang that in the garage on a power line, and you are good to go. So we're going to replace the battery. We're going to install our little trickle charger thing. Got a brand new battery. Where'd it go?
Over here, mate.
The interesting thing about these batteries are these are a DIN standard, which is like Deutschland International something, but basically
German style.
German industrial standard. So the posts are sort of sunk in like that as well. But British also have their own British Battery Manufacturing Society, which this is not for the British car. We're using a German style battery in a British car from an Australian company.
To power the Japanese engine.
To power the Japanese. This is a very multinational car, isn't it? So this can go in, and we'll attach our trickle charger, brace it back down, and we've got a nice fresh battery for it.
Now, while I was getting that, I also got a new fire extinguisher, because the other one here is out of date and the pressure gauge is looking a little bit wacky. So I have a new one from Super Cheap Auto that can go in. And then, Martin, we're going to chuck some oil in it, and then we're close.
Time for a drive.
We're close for the first drive. It's going to be freaking epic. The purity, people, is going to be, this is the scale of minimum to maximum purity, and the purity is going to be out here. It's so far, in fact, that a magical t-shirt is floating over my shoulder right now. The new and limited Mighty Car Mods Purity t-shirt. You asked for it, so we made it. It's available right now. Show the world you love your camel purity.
Maximum purity.
Just maximum. It's just maximum purity
all about.
has been achieved, and you will be coming with us on our first drive. It's going to be amazing. There we go, fire extinguisher. Good. Next up, we're going to put some oil in, and then we're hitting the road. All right, so we've got our intake, we've got the exhaust, we have got the engine mounts now fixed up, we've got a new battery in there, we've got the new dash, the stereo's working, we're not blowing fuses anymore. The last thing to do is just the oil. So we have dropped the oil out, put a new filter on, and now we're going to be filling it up with Castrol Edge 5W40. Now, there is a lot of conversation about what oil you should be using. Now, some people on the track, you know, they're just doing lots of track stuff, are using 1060. People on the street are using 540. There's a lot of conversation about it, and it is something that maybe I'll change later on, but for now, I'm just putting in this so I can get driving, get to the street. So when that's on, and this is in, Martin, you and I are hitting the street, mate. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready to crank it?
I want to hear some supercharged Corolla, I mean Lotus action.
All right, that is all done. Now we can hit the road. We probably should check and make sure that it works, since that battery.
Supercharger. I want to hear the honk and the whine.
All right, key is working now, by the way, people.
Awesome.
We've pretty much fixed and attended to everything that we needed to with the Lotus in preparation for its first track day, but no doubt now, with our HKS filter and our mad intake, we're going to get some supercharged noises. But it's a high
bar to hit when we've got the super turbos honk.
Yeah, the exhaust sounds so much better. That just fixed it. Went from being really ugly to being like a nice sound when you're cruising, and then when you give it to it, it actually does what you want.
I'm pretty sure there's something wrong with that other exhaust, like, because no one would want to live with that. Like, I know everyone on the internet's all for loud exhaust, but just, it's just terrible. Anyway, let's see what it sounds like, Martin.
We
new
should
exhaust,
hear Supercharger,
new
shouldn't we?
intake. We hopefully should. This car is so fast.
It's so whiny.
It's so whiny and awesome.
Love it. It doesn't have honk, it has whine. But
Yeah.
the good kind.
Less and more like someone said it sounded like a swarm of wasps.
It really does,
It
right
does.
next to your head. But it's so linear, isn't it? Like it just is.
Yeah.
Just feels like a bigger engine than it is. I forgot this is a 1.8.
I know, it's crazy.
In
isn't
your
it?
head, you just, it's a big 4-cylinder. It's not a big 4-cylinder. Well, it is by Euro standards, but it's small here.
And now, compared to last time we drove down here in 6th gear, you don't need to speak loudly. You can just cruise along.
We just drove past a Honda Accord Euro.
Did we?
Yes.
Good. That's been the journey so far. This is going to be the last time we see the Lotus for a little while because we're moving on to another project.
Yes, we are.
Martin has picked up a car, which is pretty exciting. We're both pretty excited about it.
I has also picked up a car.
You have. And the car is not necessarily designed to compete with the Lotus, even though it's going to be ridiculously fast.
Yeah. Different kind of vehicle.
And a different kind of, pretty much a different kind of everything, isn't it?
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
It's going to start not that fast and end up very, very fast. But thank you to everybody that's contacted me from different Lotus places, that have contacted me about parts and
People
about
from the
information.
factory, like people that used to work at the factory and with the F1 teams and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It's been amazing, and so thank you to the Lotus guys in Sydney for helping out with the car as well. And
It all works. Your dash
everything
works.
The dash is like, that is just
Yeah, it's
one of my
nice.
favourite bits about the car now. Like, that is freaking awesome. That's it, Martin. So we can finish off with a little tunnel run because we probably
yes,
should.
please.
Because there's a tunnel coming up.
Yep. That sounds so good. So angry.
That is ridiculous.
That's excellent. So good. Let's go get a kebab. No, we need to get something English.
What do English people eat?
We're going to get a chip butty.
A what?
A chip butty.
What's a chip butty?
A butty with chips in it.